Hello, everybody. I am thrilled that you're here today. I am thrilled about this topic. This is my life's work. This is what is the most powerful thing for me possible, and I know it can be for you too. So I'm really excited to talk about it today. It is our inner critic. It is our inner voice and how we can cultivate that. So what this will look like, I'm going to coach for about 15 minutes. And then as I'm coaching, please type any questions that you have or thoughts or comments in the Q&A box in the very bottom of your screen. And if you want live coaching, I can pause the recording. After that 15 minutes is over, just raise your hand and I'd love to bring you on live. It is so powerful to see someone else get coached. So if you're brave enough to be that person, let's go so that we can kind of iron out what's going on in your life currently. And then also, if you don't want to do that here publicly, then that's totally fine. I encourage all of you to schedule a consultation with me and we can talk about what's going on in your life and how life coaching can help you with these kind of things. So today is our inner voice, our inner critic. And I would love to say that, okay, it's probably just me that's so hard on themselves, but I'm not even going to play that game today because we all do it. It is part of being human. We have this inner voice that is like, it's kind of mean. It's kind of nasty. It's like the mean girls. It is a stinker. And it's not always a stinker, but it is a strong stinker for all of us for a very specific reason. So why do we have that? It is our survival brain. So we have this part of our brains that is the deep down very beginning that says you need to survive over everything else in your life. If you're not alive, then you cannot thrive. So that part of our brains is trying to keep us alive at all costs. Now, what we know though is we're not in that big of a danger. So for our brain, if it doesn't mind fear or shame or all of these terrible things, because if you're afraid, then you'll stay in the cave and that tiger that's lurking around isn't going to kill you. But what we know is there are no tigers out there. There are fewer, but we're not in our day-to-day lives in danger anymore. What we're looking for as we've evolved is thriving. We're not trying to just stay alive. We're trying to be alive and well and happy and joyous and deepening our connections with the world and ourselves. So to do that, we got to harness that kind of stinker a little bit. So what we know is we have some astronomical number, like 60,000 thoughts a day. Most of those are on repeat, and most of those are subconscious, unconscious. We are not thinking about how we're thinking about them. We just think them, they're just rolling. So what we need to do is be conscious of what we can and have in a relationship with what we can. So if our survival brain is trying to keep us alive, is it effective? No, it's not, because we're already surviving. So how does it do what it's trying to do? So when our inner voice is a bit nasty, it takes a couple of forms that I find valuable to sort of see what's happening so that you can recognize it, so that you can start to see it for what it is. So the first thing that your brain does when it's a little stinky in there is it overstates the situation. So say you've made a mistake, and instead of collecting data and it's like effort tried, mistake made, result is, it says you're an idiot. There's this blanket statement that you're trying something, it didn't go well, you're an idiot. You're no good at this. You can't do it. You should probably quit. I mean, how many of us have heard that? You're an idiot. Um, it'll do something like you're making a conscious effort towards your food choices and you eat this crazy dessert instead of saying, oh, data is this many vegetables we're eating in a day, this many fruits, this much protein, this much sugar. It says, and this is straight out of my mom's mouth, and she still says this to this day, and it utters me speechless. She'll say, you're such a pig face. That is awful. Like, I hope that none of you are sharing that verbiage, but that's what her mind says to her, and she just spills it right out there. So it overstates the situation. Are you an idiot? No, you're not. You do lots of things well. Are you a pig face? I mean, no. You eat food, and sometimes your choices are better than others. It's not about being this whole thing. So that leads us to self-deprecation, right? A lot of people will take this idea that it's funny, that they're making light of a situation by kind of beating themselves down publicly. This is what my mom does when she's calling herself a pig face. She's trying to normalize it a little bit by making it a community effort, but it's still tearing her down. And so instead of making it funny, and a lot of people do think that's funny. I'm not one of those people, because what I see it for is actually your voice tearing you down. Period. If it's for someone else's entertainment, it still doesn't make it fun. It still doesn't make it kind. It still doesn't offer helpful, useful information. So I encourage you to just, if you are one for self-deprecation, to just never do that again. I'm not one to like just blanket cut things out, but that's one that I would consider cutting out, because you're the leader of your brain. You're the leader of the world inside of you. Now, you may not have control of all of the thoughts in there, but please be a leader for the ones that you do. So if you imagine a teacher who loses their mind and cusses at a student in their frustration, are the students witnessing that going to think, oh, this person made a mistake, it's okay, it's not okay for me to do that? Probably not. They're seeing this teacher as an example for them, and they're going to say the next time they're frustrated, it's okay to explode and use language and put our words all over other people. It's okay to do that because a leader in my life did that and showed me how. Right? So self-deprecation is you leading your mind in sort of a negative way. Okay, so overstating the situation is the first way your brain sort of gets in there. Number two, our inner voice will lead us to owning things that are not ours. So what does this look like? I say something and it triggers an emotion in someone else. So it triggers a thought, which triggers a feeling in someone else. And it's not a good feeling. It's a hard feeling, maybe. And so then I think, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. I made this person feel bad. There are a couple of things that does. Number one, if you're owning that you made the person feel bad, you're owning the mistake, then you own the solution. But are we the solution to other people's emotions? No. I don't really know what went on in that person's mind when they were upset. I don't really know what's happening in there, so I don't really know how to fix it. I don't really know, like, is this a screw loose here? Does this need tightening there? Are we missing a wire there? I don't know what tools to even bring to the situation, much less do I have control of fixing it. So what does this look like? Maybe you say, this most commonly happens around grief, right? Oh, I said, I'm such a jerk. I said something about sisters to this person who just lost their sister, and they were so upset. Instead of honoring that sacred space of grief with the person, I'm owning the negativity or the hardness of it. I beat myself up. I'm such a jerk. I made me feel bad, feeling bad. In truth, that person may need desperately to be safe in those hard emotions with someone. They may need to just cry with someone else to know that it's okay to cry, that other people aren't overwhelmed with their hard emotions. So when we jump to own, I'm a terrible person, I'm a jerk, I made this person feel bad, then we're not allowing them the safety of feeling however they feel when they feel it. We're not allowing them the processing of their emotions because we're over here owning them and trying to fix them. And so we're not giving them the space to work through them and to be safe in them. There's kind of a lot in that, but our brain does that ownership and fixing it as a way to, like, it's just that inner critic that's negative telling you you're doing it wrong, when really it's just the feelings are big and they feel uncomfortable. And so your brain's trying to solve that by making you wrong and get you out of there. A third way that your brain will kind of use negativity for you is fear and shame. So it'll say things like, you make a mistake, and it'll say, you can't do this. You don't know how. You shouldn't do this. People will judge you. You'll look like an idiot. This will be awful. People will laugh at you. And the truth of that is, it doesn't, if the brain's effort is to keep you safe so you don't die, it's not working on levels, because number one, people judging you isn't a threat to your survival. It's just uncomfortable, right? And the second part of that is, people judging you is about them. It's not about you. So when somebody looks at you and they're like, that's ridiculous, what they're really seeing is something they don't like in themselves, and they're just using you as the sort of scapegoat for themselves. It's the same thing that you do when you're judging other people. It's something about you that either you don't like or you don't know how to process yet. It triggers an emotion that you don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this. I am overwhelmed by that one. I'm going to judge the crap out of it. Right? I mean, we've all been there where we're looking around and we're judging. When we let go of that judgment for ourselves, within ourselves, we're usually a lot more open to the people around us and the human experience they're having. So what do? We've got this brain that's offering us these overstatements of situations, these owning things that don't belong to us, this fear and this shame of judgment and all the things. What do? So when we see this happening, and it's more like you're an onlooker, right? So you're seeing your brain offering you're an idiot. You can see that and say, oh, I see you. You're trying to keep me safe. Okay. I don't like you, but I see you. Then state the facts. What is the situation? What is the data that is available to you around this you're an idiot situation, right? You're not an idiot. Maybe you made a mistake. The facts are, this happened and I missed this detail. Now I have the opportunity to search into this detail. You're not a pig face. You ate this amount of food and part of it was something that you've deemed that you don't want to eat, right? It's just data. right? Now I can build the relationship with the food that I didn't want to eat and figure out, why am I compelled to eat it? What is it about the food? I can deepen my relationship with that food. I can deepen my relationship with that mistake. I'm not an idiot that just shuts the whole thing down. I can look at the data. I can start stating the truth. The truth is, this happened. Then you can look at how you feel about it. But that is deepening that relationship, right? What do you do when you first feel that you're an idiot? It's state the facts. You're not a terrible person. If you're triggering with another person, you're not a terrible person. You're witnessing someone else having a hard emotion, right? And maybe you know how to deal with that, and maybe you don't. And both of you are safe in that. Number 2, you separate your identity from the action. Your brain tells you you're an idiot. You tell you, I'm not an idiot. This thing happened. I'm a person learning how to do this thing. I'm a person building a skill. My heart is amazing. I'm trying to build this skill for this reason. I'm the person who is doing this and that and whatever. The tasks and how they go have nothing to do with who you are as a person. They don't define you. The skill that you're building doesn't define you. The mistakes that you make when you're building it don't define you either. So you can look at separating your identity from the action. I'm the person who, and this is the powerful one, I'm the person who supports themselves when they're at their lowest. I'm the person who's figuring out how to back myself up when I feel like I'm doing my worst. I'm a good person navigating life the best that I can. The third thing we can do is put in the reps. So when I was learning personal training, I learned this so valuable tool. It takes 300 to 500 repetitions to create a brand new pattern in your body, a neurological pattern. It takes 3,000 to 5,000 to break a pattern and create a new one. So to create change that is in a pathway that already exists, it takes 10 times the effort to make that change. So we all already have this innate function of a stink mind. It is called the survival brain. It is a stinky voice that is in our heads, yapping in our brains over and over and over. So if we're going to make a change, we got to make a minimum of 3,000 repetitions. So you can think about that and feel like it's overwhelming, or you can look at those 3,000 reps and get to work. Every time you make a mistake, oh, there's a rep. Here's my opportunity to back myself up, to say something kind to myself, to support myself, to state the facts, to separate my identity, and to put in that rep. So if you're thinking about, if you look at like real life, how many times, how many practices in a month do you think a basketball player practices free throws? Every practice. Every single time a basketball player practices, they practice free throws. You stand at the line, you shoot the ball, you perfect that shot, and then you repeat it and repeat it, repeat it, make it natural, repeat it, make it unconscious, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And even with all those repetitions, does a basketball player miss a free throw every now and then? Do they have a perfect record on that line? No, they do not. So just like them, don't expect yourself to be perfect. Your repetitions are not going to be perfect. They're not going to be pretty. But when you take the pause to say, I'm in a rep right now, I am practicing. I am owning my mistakes, not my identity as a mistake maker. Then you get to put in that rep. You get to build that skill of backing yourself up, of building this inner voice that has kindness and understanding and is safe for you. Because when all you're doing is listening to the voice that tells you you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, it doesn't give you inspiration. It doesn't give you excitement. It doesn't give you the encouragement that you need to keep going. It just beats you down and tells you to stay in the dang cave. So if you want to thrive instead of just survive, put in those reps to back yourself up, to create the identity that you want. I'm the person who's backing herself up. I'm not the person telling myself lies. That's very different from like an affirmation that you do not believe. Don't lie to yourself. Just be safe with yourself. So I encourage you, as I'm wrapping this up, I want you to type in what questions you have in the Q&A. But just to wrap up, what our brain is going to offer us is overstatement. It's going to offer us owning things that don't belong to us, and it's going to offer us fear and shame. What do? We state the facts. We look at the data of what's going on. We don't accept that blanket statement that our brains are offering us. We separate our identity from the action that happened that we don't feel good about. And we put in the reps to say, I'm a person who loves herself, is figuring out how to love herself, is figuring out how to work through my challenges. Listen, if you don't love yourself now, I'm with you. It took me 40 years of my life to understand even an inkling of what loving myself felt like. But I got to tell you, it's fun. Once you get there, if you're not there yet, it's something worth working toward. So tell me what questions you have. What feels hard to you in the idea of that inner critic? What feels hard about countering that inner critic? They're so loud. True. I mean, listen, your inner voice is the most consistent voice you hear. It's the loudest voice out there because it's the voice that is available to you when you wake up in the morning and when you go to sleep at night. It's available to you all day long while you're in a meeting. So yeah, it's loud. And so over and over. So every time it's loud, you get the opportunity to put in a rep. I see you. You're not the only voice in my head. You're not the only thing that has something to say. I have something to say too, and I'm going to show you how to treat me. Because what I'm seeing, what you told me, is a blanket statement. But what I see are all these nuances. I'm going to look at these nuances and see what I want to work on. So what else are you feeling what feelings do you have? What comes up for you as your inner voice is like stinking on you, telling you these blanket statements? How does it feel to you? I don't even realize I'm hearing it. That's so valuable. There's so many that are unconscious. There's so many that are, you don't even know they're happening. All of a sudden you may have like received 800 thoughts on 800's too big, right? So say something happens and I feel a certain way about it. I'm getting a barrage of thoughts of like, why did it happen? You're not good enough. How can you change it? You can't. You're not good enough. What would be better? There's no making it better. Just go in the cave. It is the worst case scenario. Your survival brain will bring you the worst case scenario. So when you don't even know that it's happening, that makes perfect sense. It is not all a decision that you're making. It's usually never a decision that you're making. The decision you make is to make another one, is to bring another voice to light. The decision you make is never going to eradicate that negative voice from your brain. It is part of your DNA. It's part of all of us. It's part of who we are as humans. So you're never going to get it out. You're never going to cancel it. You're never going to not hear it. You are going to build the skill of adding another voice. What do you do? Share with me some of the things that you do when you are, when you hear that negative voice. Some of the things I do are freeze or distract myself. This person says, open the refrigerator door. Yeah. How many times do you call it boredom when you're like, what's in there? I don't know. I mean, I put all of it in there. I should know what's in there. I do know what's in there, in fact, but let me see again. Maybe it's, it's not boredom. It's something else. It can be boredom, maybe, but a lot of times when we hear these negative thoughts, or we don't even hear them, when we feel these hard emotions, especially shame, is a big one, or like, I'm not enough, or I'm not, I'm not right in some way, then we go to counter that feeling. Food gives us a quick little dopamine hit, and it feels good. It feels so much better than feeling bad, right? So instead of understanding the bad feeling, instead of building a relationship with it, we go feel something quick and easy and good. So that's a great one, and I appreciate that. We are at time, and I am just, as always, honored that you're here. I love sharing this stuff with you. I am so grateful for your questions. I encourage you to schedule a consultation with me where we can look at what is happening in your world and really see how life coaching can help, how looking at these things that are happening in your mind can really help you find what you're actually looking for, and not just survival. So you can let me know in the comments. If you're watching this later, you can reach out to me on social media or on YouTube, leave a comment and just say consult. So I can't wait to talk with you deeper. I'll see you next week, next Friday at noon. And until then, I hope you have an amazing week putting in those reps.